Okay, let's unpack this. You've likely heard a lot of headlines about Alligator Alcatraz. I mean, a name that immediately grabs your attention, doesn't it? Definitely conjures images.
Oh, absolutely. An inescapable fortress, perhaps?
Right. But beyond that striking moniker, what's truly going on with this new, very publicized immigration detention facility down in Florida?
Well, what's fascinating here is how quickly this single facility has become such a lightning rod,
Yeah.
a focal point for so many larger, really deeply intertwined conversations around immigration policy in the U.S.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the specifics of Alligator Alcatraz itself and, well, connect this to the bigger picture, explore the broader implications of mass deportation efforts this facility is designed to support.
So our mission today is to sift through the sources, try to cut through the noise a bit, and give you a clear, balanced understanding. We're looking at the facility's purpose, the intense controversies around it, and the potential impact of the policies it champions.
Exactly. The goal is to equip you with the knowledge to be truly well-informed on what is, let's face it, an incredibly complex issue.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. What exactly is Alligator Alcatraz, and, well, where did this particularly evocative name even come from?
Right. So Alligator Alcatraz is an immigration detention facility. Physically, it's located at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport. That's right inside the Big Cypress National Preserve in Okeechobee, Florida.
Deep in the Everglades, then.
Deep in the Everglades, yes. Described as being surrounded by alligator and python-infested waters. That's key to the name.
Okay.
The name itself was actually coined by Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer. And it's a deliberate allusion, to both that local wildlife perimeter and, of course, the infamous Alcatraz prison.
And they officially adopted it, and it wasn't just a nickname that stuck.
No, it seems it's been officially adopted for the facility. It's not just a media tag.
Now, what's truly striking, I think, isn't just what this facility is, but the sheer speed it materialized. How did they manage to get it up and running so incredibly fast?
That speed is definitely a major point of interest and, well, controversy. Governor Ron DeSantis invoked a standing 2023 immigration state of emergency.
Okay.
And that declaration essentially allowed the state to bypass typical procurement processes and also, crucially, environmental reviews that would normally be required.
So cutting through the red tape, essentially.
Pretty much. Private companies were mobilized very quickly, and the National Guard was actually deployed for the construction work starting back in June 2025.
In the scale, how many people are we talking about?
It's designed to house a significant number, up to 5,000 migrants awaiting deportation eventually. The initial capacity was 2,000, with plans already in place to expand that to 4,000.
Given that rapid construction and scale, what was the primary objective Governor DeSantis laid out? What's its stated purpose?
Well, according to Governor DeSantis himself, its whole purpose is to make this be a place that can facilitate increased frequency and numbers of deportations of illegal aliens. That's a direct quote.
And they built infrastructure for that.
Yes. To that end, the facility even has an on-site runway. It's specifically designed to accommodate deportation planes for direct flights out. The aim is clearly to make the whole removal process, from their perspective, much more streamlined and efficient.
But, as you might imagine, a facility like this, built so quickly with that stated purpose, hasn't been without some intense criticism. What are people saying about the conditions inside, the day-to-day reality?
Yeah, the reports from detainees and various advocacy groups, they paint a really challenging picture. Quite grim, frankly. There are widespread allegations of severe insect infestations, mosquitoes especially.
In the Everglades, I suppose that's not surprising, but...
Right, but detainees describe it as pervasive. Constant bites, skin irritations, and genuine fears of disease in that humid environment. They claim staff get repellent, but detainees were only sprayed maybe once on arrival with little effect. Some said the mosquitoes just don't let you sleep.
That sounds awful. And beyond insects, what about basic needs? Sanitation, food, water.
Sanitation is definitely a major concern being raised. There are really shocking allegations, things like worms in food, maggots, even reports that toilets don't flush, flooding floors with fecal waste.
Oh, wow.
Detainees have apparently reported going days without showering because bathing water is extremely limited, has to be trucked in daily, they say. Food sometimes limited to just one meal a day. Drinking water also reportedly in short supply.
And medical care.
Claims of inadequate access there, too. Some individuals allegedly not getting crucial prescription medicine for days.
And the living environment itself, what's the setup?
It's described as having an open floor plan. So think large open spaces with rows of bunk beds surrounded by chain link cages. Very little privacy. Detainees also allege the lights are kept on 204/7, which severely impacts sleep. And despite official claims that air conditioning is fully operational, problems with AC have also been consistently reported.
And communication. Contact with the outside.
Severely restricted is the report, often limited to monitored, very short payphone calls, maybe only about 5 minutes sometimes.
That certainly paints a concerning picture. So, given these intense claims, how are officials responding? Are they pushing back?
They are largely denying these accounts, sometimes quite strongly. Officials, including Governor DeSantis and a spokesperson for the Florida Division of Emergency Management, Stephanie Hartman, they maintain the facility meets all required standards and is very professionally run.
So, a direct contradiction.
Yes. Governor DeSantis famously remarked, you might recall, this is not the Four Seasons, implying, certain expectations are unreasonable. Florida's chief financial officer, Blaise Ingoglia, even claimed after a tour that the beds were better than my bed at home.
Interesting claim.
So the official line is very much that these reports are unfounded or exaggerated.
Okay, beyond the day-to-day conditions, this raises fundamental questions about rights. What legal and constitutional challenges is Alligator Alcatraz facing, particularly around due process?
The due process concerns are absolutely central here. It's really crucial to understand that the U.S. Constitution guarantees due process rights to no person, not just citizens or legal residents.
Right, that's a key distinction.
It is. And it's been upheld by the Supreme Court multiple times, like in Yuck v. Hopkins back in 1886 and Pyler v. Doe in 1982. These cases establish that constitutional protections apply broadly to everyone on U.S. soil.
So how does that apply specifically here? What's the lawsuit about?
Well, the ACLU filed a class action lawsuit back on July 16, 2025. They allege detainees are being prevented from getting adequate access to lawyers. They state that no protocols exist for confidential attorney-client communication.
That seems fundamental to due process.
Absolutely. There are also reports lawyers have actually been barred from entering the facility. This effectively leaves detainees, the argument goes, with no way to contest their detention.
And if the conditions are as bad as alleged, does the Eighth Amendment come into play? Cruel and unusual punishment.
Critics definitely argue that. The conditions described mosquito infestations, sanitation issues, lack of adequate food, water, medical care. They argue this could constitute cruel and unusual punishment.
Especially since it's not supposed to be punitive detention.
Exactly. Immigration detention is legally meant to be entirely non-punitive. It's administrative, not a criminal sentence. Plus, the idea of using alligators as a deterrent, which officials have mentioned, some critics see that as intentional exposure to dangerous conditions akin to torture. Serious Eighth Amendment concerns there.
This sounds like a major clash of legal authorities.
Yeah.
What's the issue around separation of powers? I heard something about military judges.
Yes, that's a huge point of contention. Florida's plan is to use state National Guard Judge Advocate General's Corps officers, JAG officers, basically military lawyers as immigration judges.
Can they do that?
Legal experts argue no, that this fundamentally bypasses the system Congress set up under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952. That act clearly designates the Executive Office for Immigration Review within the DOJ as having exclusive responsibility for immigration cases.
So different legal systems entirely.
Right. JAG officers operate under military law. They aren't trained or governed by the McCarran-Walter Act for immigration cases. Critics argue that neither the president nor a governor can just create a new system of immigration judges unilaterally. That power rests with Congress.
And there's another law involved, too.
Yes, the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 generally restricts using federal military personnel in civilian law enforcement roles, which adds another layer of legal complexity to using state JAG officers in this way.
Okay, shifting from legal issues to the land itself, environmental or indigenous concerns. It is in a national preserve.
Absolutely. Environmental groups like Friends of the Everglades and indigenous communities, specifically the Miccosukee and Seminole tribes, have filed lawsuits.
On what grounds?
They argue the facility directly threatens endangered species habitats, violates environmental laws, and also critical tribal cultural resource protections because the land is considered sacred. Reports indicate native villages are actually within 900 feet of the camp's entrance.
And was an environmental impact study done?
No, because the construction was fast-tracked under that state of emergency declaration, no environmental impact research was conducted beforehand. That's a major point for the objectors.
So with all these complex legal, humanitarian, environmental concerns, what are the authorities' main justifications for this whole approach? Why build this facility?
They present several key justifications. First and foremost, efficiency for mass deportation. It's explicitly framed as a blueprint for state cooperation with the broader administration's goals.
A model for other states, maybe?
Potentially. They see it as a soup-to-nuts plan, leveraging Florida's resources, including that runway, for direct deportation flights. Right after it opened, hundreds were processed for deportation. Florida officials have also vowed a surge in arrests, deputizing local law enforcement.
What other justifications are offered?
Addressing capacity issues is another one. They argue it helps ICE and local jails handle deportation policies and the massive immigration court backlog. Florida alone has over 500,000 pending cases.
Wow.
Then there's the natural security argument. Attorney General Uthmeier calling the Everglades the best natural perimeter money can't buy, citing the alligators and pythons as deterrents.
Using nature as a wall.
Essentially. Officials have even argued the hurricane risk might encourage self-deportation.
That's quite a justification. What about cost?
It's claimed to be a low-cost option, with the federal government expected to reimburse Florida. Using state JAG officers and Florida contractors for flights is presented as a major force multiplier, making state resources go further.
And they claim due process is being provided.
Yes, they claim detainees get due process, mentioning the supposed air conditioning, medical staff, and an on-site judge for final hearings. They also push self-deportation as a legal pathway, noting people can apply to return legally later.
Okay, it sounds like a robust defense focused on efficiency and cost. But how does the other side respond to those points?
Well, they're heavily contested, the low-cost claim. Initial reports estimate Alligator Alcatraz alone costs over $450 million per year to operate. Critics say that's hardly low cost.
$450 million a year.
That's the estimate reported. Also, the promised short 2-week stay hasn't held true for everyone. Some have been there longer. And notably, detainees reportedly include people from Europe and Canada, not just Latin America.
Interesting.
Critics also stress that many detainees face no criminal charges beyond civil immigration violations, making the detention conditions seem disproportionate. And the effectiveness of self-deportation messaging is questioned when you consider the alleged conditions and lack of legal access.
Okay, let's zoom out now. Alligator Alcatraz is one piece of this larger push for mass deportations. What are the potential economic consequences if such a policy were implemented nationwide?
The potential costs are truly staggering.
Oh.
A one-time operation to deport the estimated 13.3 million undocumented immigrants could cost at least $315 billion.
Guian, with a B.
With a B, broken down roughly. $89 billion for arrests, $168 billion for detention, $34 billion for legal processing, $24 billion for removals.
And a longer-term program.
Deporting, say, 1 million people annually could average $88 billion per year, totaling nearly $968 billion over a decade plus. Most of that $66 billion a year would be for building and maintaining detention camps. You'd need 24 times more IC capacity, over 1,000 new immigration courtrooms.
Just trying to wrap my head around that number. Almost $1 trillion. What else could that kind of money do?
Right. The opportunity cost is huge. That could build over 40,000 new elementary schools, or over 2.9 million new homes. Fund Head Start for nearly 79 years, pay college tuition for millions. It really forces you to think about national priorities.
Beyond the direct costs, what about the impact on the U.S. economy itself? GDP, labor.
Mass deportation is projected to shrink U.S. GDP significantly by 4.2% to 6.8%. That's between $1.1 trillion and $1.7 trillion.
That sounds massive.
It is. For context, it's comparable to the GDP drop during the Great Recession. You'd remove about 7.5 million workers, 4.6% of the labor force. This would cause severe shortages in key sectors like construction, which is 14% undocumented workers, agriculture, hospitality. It could even lead to job losses for U.S.-born workers in related fields.
And what about taxes and social programs? Social Security, Medicare.
Undocumented households paid an estimated $46.8 billion in federal taxes and $29.3 billion in state local taxes in 2022. They also contributed $22.6 billion to Social Security and $5.7 billion to Medicare.
So losing those contributions
Could make it much harder to keep those safety net programs solvent, especially with an aging population. You'd also lose about 1 million entrepreneurs, their $27 billion in business income, and over $250 billion in consumer spending power.
Have we seen real-world examples of these economic impacts in states that tried similar policies?
We have, absolutely. Florida's own Senate Bill 1718 in 2023 led to worker shortages, crop losses, stalled construction. Georgia's 2011 law caused about $140 million in crop losses. Arizona's 2010 policies were estimated to shrink its economy by nearly $49 billion annually and cut state tax revenues by over 10%. These aren't just theories.
Beyond the economics, which are clearly immense, what are the human and societal costs?
The human cost is profound. Family separation is a huge one. Mass deportation could separate an estimated 4 million mixed-status families, impacting 8.5 million U.S. citizens, over 5 million of them children.
The stress must be incredible.
Tremendous emotional stress, yes. And for families left behind, an average income reduction of over 60%, or $51,000 a year. Critics also worry about the erosion of the social fabric, even dehumanization. Visible mass deportation operations could change how Americans view their government and each other, potentially fueling vigilantism or hate crimes. Some point to rhetoric questioning if migrants are people, and the comparisons of facilities to concentration camps, though that term is obviously highly charged.
How does this current approach compare historically, say, to the Obama administration, which also had high deportation numbers?
While the Obama administration did have significant deportations, often without full due process, critics argue the current administration's policies are more openly amplified with highly visible and provocative actions.
Like the naming, the merchandise you mentioned.
Exactly. Things like mass deportations now signs, merchandise for Alligator Alcatraz. It represents a different level of overtness and perceived cruelty in the public eye, according to critics. And yes, as of today, July 25th, 2025, deportation flights have begun from Alligator Alcatraz, and Florida is vowing that surge in arrests.
So what does this all mean for us? We've taken this deep dive into Alligator Alcatraz from its controversial origins and contested conditions all the way to the massive implications of mass deportation policies on our economy and society.
It really raises a crucial point, I think. When we consider policies of this scale, understanding that complex interplay between the legal frameworks, basic human rights, and the hard economic realities, it becomes absolutely paramount. It's really about looking beyond those catchy headlines and understanding the full spectrum of impacts.
Right. Whether you ultimately agree with the policies or not, this deep dive certainly shows us the decisions made at the border or in places like the Everglades, they reverberate through every single corner of our society, from our wallets to our basic understanding of human rights.
It touches everything.
So, the question left hanging, maybe for you to consider, what further questions does this deep dive spark for you about the future of immigration enforcement and its lasting impact on the American landscape?